It's not so simple, is it? It's not as simple as we would imagine it to be. How often have we wondered, why does God simply permit evil to continue? How often maybe have we actually asked him, why, God, do you permit this evil to continue, like John detailed? Why would you allow evil to happen to these kids if you could do something about it? It's not so simple, though. That's at least one of the points that emerges in Jesus' parable. You would have me deal with evil? But look what could happen that you could not conceive of. I can pull out evil, but what might that do as well? It might uproot the good. It might damage those who are good. It's not quite so simple. One of the themes that emerges in this gospel has to be that of humility, of meekness. We only see a very, very small part of the picture. We would do something that could ultimately do damage. And we get angry with God for not doing what we say. And that theme of humility, I think, builds from last week. Remember the parable that Jesus told last week, the sower and the seed that fell on good ground, and on ground hard, thorny, rocky. And the apostle said, well, explain to us the parable. And he quoted Isaiah, and at the beginning it seemed like he was suggesting, well, there's an in-group who knows and an out-group who does not. But the bulk of the reference to Isaiah had to do with the failure of all of God's prophets during their lifetime. Their words were ineffective, which is ironic, as Jesus, the prophet, is speaking. And he says, let me tell you why my words are going to be ineffective. Because some of what I'm saying is going to fall on the path, and the evil one's going to take it away. How did he explain it? There will be those who don't really comprehend. They don't invest themselves to understand what I'm saying, and then it exposes them to the evil one, the father of lies. So there's dishonesty that they welcome into their life, and it bears no fruit. And the ones on the rocky ground, well, they have no root, interior stability. They're thrown back and forth in this life by the influencers online, by the trends. And then the thorns, well, it's worldly anxiety, right? It's look what everybody else had and I don't. And then you begin to be anxious. How do I have that? Look what I'm missing out on. And then the lure of riches comes. And then all of a sudden, it seems, or can, maybe it did on you, it did on me, dawn that it's not as though there are people simply who have good soil and people who are simply thorns, full of thorns, and hard, and rocky. No, all of a sudden, if I begin to think about the worldly anxiety that creeps up in my own life, I begin to see that I am susceptible to that too. Maybe he, in fact, is talking about me and why his word is not effective in my heart. It's not as though I just have good soil. And then something similar with today's gospel. I mean, we already heard it. The consequences of dealing with evil aren't easy to predict. So there's an encouragement to humility. And then like last week also, on the surface, it sounds like there are two categories. Good soil, bad soil. Wheat, weeds. But the devil doesn't create any person, does he? It's not he who is the creator. The weeds, who are the children of the evil one, must come to be his children. Every person born into this world is created by God, right? It's not as though the devil creates children. So something must happen for them to become the children of the evil one. People aren't predestined to be weeds or wheat. and who exactly is a weed or a wheat isn't easy to determine. This comes out in the original language. We hear weeds, that's a general term, right? All sorts of weeds out there. In the original, it's specific, zizania, wheat and zizania. Well, zizania used to be translated as tares. It's darnel. It's indistinguishable from wheat. It looks the same as it grows up, and its roots wind their way around the roots of wheat. Zizania. It's not so easy to determine who's a weed and who's wheat. And is it so easy to determine if I myself am wheat or zizania? Well, St. Augustine said, no. He said, they who are now zizania or tares may tomorrow become wheat. You cannot judge someone else. Or in writing about the church, he said, many who seem outside are inside, and many who seem inside will turn to be on the outside. Like last week's parable, this week's seems to prompt us to consider, one, am I judging someone else? Am I overconfident in my weed pulling? I know how to deal with it. And then finally, it does suggest maybe that we ask the question, could I actually be zizania? Could I actually be a weed and it looks like I'm wheat? Friends, I think if that question actually penetrates our hearts to any degree, it results in humility and in abandoning ourselves to God's mercy, which we heard so beautifully articulated in our first reading. Though you are master of might, you judge with clemency, with mercy, and with much lenience you govern us. And you taught your people by these deeds that those who are just must be kind. And you gave your children good ground for hope, that you would permit repentance for their sins.